we will turn now to the after show, which normally I would like to turn over to Clark Cooning, NMMR, but Mr. Cooning is still on the lake fishing and probably will be for the rest of the summer. So you're stuck with me for the after show. So with that said, I will turn it over to anybody who's new that hasn't been here before or made any comments that might want to say something. You're most welcome to. And if there's nobody new here tonight, then any of you old people that would have been here before who'd like to make a statement or comment, the floor is all open to you.
We have a brand new member in our participants. His name is Dmitry Voronov.
And Dmitry is from the Ukraine. And Dmitry is somebody that I have been communicating back and forth with. Dmitry, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here tonight.
You're muted, Dmitry.
Hello.
There you are. How are you, sir?
Another one, please.
You're on, Dmitry.
I think we can hear you now.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
And thank you. I like it.
Dmitry, for anybody's information, is a card modeler. He builds out of paper and cardstock of different widths and thicknesses and so forth. And if you see some of the models that he has built, you will not believe it. You'll swear that there's nothing that nobody could build the models that he builds in card and paper, but he does it. And they're just, Dmitry, I just can't tell you how outstanding I think your modeling is.
James.
Anybody else have anything to like talk about tonight?
Here's a question.
Yes, sir.
What is everybody's thoughts in the Zoom meeting on competitive modeling?
I don't know what you mean.
Depends what she looks like. Oh, sorry.
Building models to compete with, such as the farm toy guys do with their dioramas and displays, and individual pieces such as the toy truck and construction guys do with their semis and whatnot. This thought process comes on due to the podcast or YouTube Live from last night, and also from the upcoming National Toy Truck and Construction Show's truck competition for 1/64th scale trucks, semis.
Well, what's everybody think about that?
Well, I have seen a lot of competitive modeling in scale modeling, like model aircraft, army vehicles, tons of stuff like that, and it's really fierce competition. It's really interesting to watch, and people pour tons of money into making models that can win these competitions. And I think it would be very interesting one day to see competitive model everything, like kit bashing, stuff like that. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, but someone would need to organize that. And I know the National Model Railroad Association, I don't think necessarily said they were too keen on that, but I think it would be a very good idea. I think it would bring more, actual scale modeling in the, in the hobby.
Let me ask you, let me ask you this. How would you all feel if we tried to do something like that on the show?
I'd be for it. You know, the thing that I've noticed about competitive modeling is it seems to bring in younger individuals. There are huge turnouts of youth modelers for the both the toy truck and construction and for the display competitions for the farm toy world. And when I say youth, you know, like I stated last week in the meeting or after meeting, there are large numbers of kids under the age of 14 or 15 that build displays and compete that would give MMR individuals a run for their money with the quality of the displays that they're doing. And it's because of the competition.
Well, how would we set something like that up, Tony?
I think the biggest thing is going to be figuring out a way to advertise that something that is going to happen, and then figuring out classes and whatnot. Beyond that, I'm not entirely sure.
Let me ask you this as maybe a way of starting this. I wonder if we could get some of the people that have entered the contest before, the farm modelers, that kind of thing, the truck construction modelers. Maybe we could get them to come on the show and just talk about their displays to kind of show us, you know, what they're doing and what is really being done out there for those parts of the hobby world. I would be personally interested in seeing that.
Yeah, that would probably help greatly. You know, there's such a diverse cross section when it comes to that it's absolutely amazing. Like last week, I recommended anybody who hadn't seen it, you know, go on YouTube and search some of the displays done by Chris Steeb.
Yeah.
And see just the displays and the quality of modeling that's being done. And, you know, that's something that I believe in the hobby of model railroading could greatly advantage and advance the modeling world, especially if the advertisements are out there and, you know, you get a wider cross section of individuals in that want to compete.
Right. Right. Well, I would sure like to see something. What about the rest of you all? Are Tony and I the only two people that would be interested in that, or what do you guys think?
I think you have to be careful in something like this, because if you do have a program like this, you kind of leave out those who are trying to learn something, and they have not got the quality behind them to do that sort of stuff and compete with someone else. There's a lot of great modelers on here, better than I am, and I'm sure that if they present their models, it might be hard for others to compete against them. I don't know. It's a very tricky situation. If you were running a contest, then you would have to be presenting it with a gift or some kind of present or get, you know, something for doing the best model. It's a very, I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. I think you're taking away from what we're trying to do, is teach people how to do it. I like looking at great models. I think they have something to offer to all of us, but there's a lot of us out there who are trying to learn too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, Jim, what could be done is these modelers come display their stuff on the MyBuild.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Maybe not have a contest at first. I think it would do everybody good to see what other people are doing. And as I talk to other people in other hobbies, particularly, For example, when I talked to the guy that runs Atlantis Models, and he's going to be on our show, I think in January or February next year, I forget which. And he's going to build one of his kits, one of his O scale kits, 1/48 scale kits. And it's a gasoline truck. And it's going to be a different kind of build. It's a plastic kit, but you know, you look at it and you figure, my gosh, look at all of these parts. Look at all of the work that's going to be involved in putting this kit together. I've never built a kit like that. You know, maybe you guys have, but I've never built one like that. I have another person that's going to come on the show who sells die-cast cars and trucks, primarily trucks and Tony farm equipment. And he's going to come on the show and he's going to customize one of the products that he sells and put, you know, different pieces on it that are 3D printed and so forth and that kind of stuff. And it'll come out like Tony's talking about. You know, he could spend thousands of dollars on a truck, die-cast truck, by the time he takes apart the parts that he doesn't want on it and then rebuilds it with the parts that he does want, adds what he wants and so forth, and paints it. He could have a significant amount of money in that model. Plus, it would take him a significant amount of time to complete that model. So there are people in the hobby, and as Tony says, you know, they go to these other shows and compete. It's amazing some of the things that they are building. And to me, it's amazing because I would never do it the way that they're doing. I would not model like that. I'm not smart enough, I guess, to learn what Earl was trying to teach us tonight. I mean, I got so lost in that tonight. I couldn't keep track of what I was seeing, but I know that there are people out there that are so sophisticated, like Earl is, in using that tool, that it's amazing to see what they can create. And I enjoy seeing that kind of thing, even though I can't do it, and I probably cannot build a model that in a contest would compete with them because of the detail and the magnitude of the detail and how beautiful the detail is that they can make, you know, with a 3D printer. But I love to see it because it stimulates me to try to do better if I can in the kind of modeling that I enjoy doing. As far as prizes, that kind of thing, yeah, sure. I'm sure that we can get manufacturers to come forth with some prizes. I wouldn't be concerned about that too much. We can't certainly compete with the kind of prize money and so forth that some of these other shows are giving, but we could come up with prizes, I think. It just depends on you know, whether anybody would be interested in doing it and whether whether we lose the audience that we spend a lot of time creating here if we tried to broaden it into these other fields. And that I don't know. I've taken the philosophy from day one to throw things against the wall and see what sticks. So you know, I'm not adverse to anything that we try as long as, you know, it's what everybody thinks, you know, this is something we should try. Let's give it a try and see what happens, kind of. That's always been my philosophy.
So what would you suggest on like what kind of segment would you do it? I think that comes back to I don't think it would scare too many people off. I mean, I just went to Dimitri's website and it scared the crap out of me when I saw the quality of the stuff that he's putting out.
Can you imagine?
I love it. I love it because you look at.
Sarah, can you imagine? That's all paper and card.
I know, and I just think what you could learn from that kind of, you know, technique and everything else. So I'm always inspired to see people's work like that. So I would love to see that on And maybe the My Build thing is kind of where to put that.
Well, and I want Dimitri to come back and to show us some of his models on the show. And I want him to be a part of my build. I'm writing doing a profile of him in one of the magazines now because I'm so impressed with the models that I have seen that he has created.
Mhm.
And there's those kind of modelers out there, as Tony was saying. Guys, I'm telling you, they're spending an awful lot of money on a single model to take to a competition. I know that's happening out there.
Well, if I can share a picture, I can show you guys a picture of a 1/64th scale tractor that has almost $200 worth of 3D printed parts on it.
I'd love to see it.
Give me a second here, and I'll pull it up. Gallery. Bear with me, guys. I'm doing this from my phone. I apologize.
No problem.
Makes it easy for some things, and it makes it extremely difficult for others.
And Tony, you're heavily involved with these people. Why don't we see if we can't have them come on to a show? We'll give them a segment, a major part of one of the shows, and just talk about their farm modeling and what they'd like to see and how we could maybe work together. I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah. So in that picture, there's over $1,000 worth of tractors. Granted, the one you can only see the outside dual on, but there are 5 tractors there at over $150, $200 a piece. And that's just in parts. That isn't, between 3D printed parts, donors, and detail components. There's a lot of money wrapped up in that for just being 64 scale tractors.
And Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but those parts don't all come from the same manufacturer, right? You've got to shop around and find the parts?
Correct. There are parts off of Shapeways from 2 or 3 different designers. There are parts from Farm Factor 3D. There are parts from Tractor Fab. There's parts from Chucky's Pullers and Parts. There are literally 8 or 9 manufacturers or designers worth of components in each one of those tractors. Easily. Not to mention the donor tractors from Ertl and the donor tractors from Greenlight to do these builds. Specifically the first 2 tractors there to the right start off as 2 tractors that get kit bashed together.
It's like any hobby. You can go to a great detail on any of your models that you're building.
Oh yeah. It's just like, I've seen guys, I know guys that have put, $500, $600, $700 into a locomotive. I've done that. I've done some beautiful Paducah rebuilds in S scale. And I know how much money gets wrapped up in that. And then you think about something as small as a tractor. And I know from my experience, at least with S scalers that have showed up at the National Farm Toy Show, they look at the farm toy guys, or at least some of them look at the farm toy guys as outsiders, because why would somebody want to spend $150, $200, $250 on a tractor or a truck that's just a scene filler that doesn't move? And I hate that people look at it that way, but that's just something that I've noticed about a large selection of modelers, model railroaders. But I've noticed the same thing about farm toy guys when they get told that there's $500 or $600 in a locomotive. It's priorities. But we have a group of S-scalers that are based out of Minnesota and the Midwest that are trying to get the 1/64 scale modelers in overall together as a group, because S-scale gets looked over by any major manufacturer. And I believe the competitions help that. And if we can get competitions that will grow and bring in a more diverse group, that you can compete a locomotive during or against a tractor and have, unbiased judges that are just looking at the detail, the reality, and the work that goes into it. I believe it will actually help grow the hobby. And plus, like I've said previously, the amount of youth that get drawn in for the chance to compete is absolutely ungodly. I competed in 2013 at the National Farm Toy Show, and there were 34 displays that were done by individuals under the age of 14 in the youth division.
So what you're kind of asking is that it goes to all other fields
Mm-hmm.
in the modeling business, not just trains and model trains and buildings. It's everything.
Yep.
It's modeling. And
That's
frankly,
exactly.
again, it doesn't make any difference what your hobby is. You're a model builder. It's modeling.
Mm-hmm. I feel that even if you just focused on model railroading, that if there was competition and it was advertised and such in areas other than specifically model railroading, that you would draw people from outside of the model railroading world whose sole purpose is to compete, and it will get them into model railroading. Because I've spoke with guys that say that.
I think the key to it would be the judging and the impartial judging. It would be the key to this, and how you find the judges and who the judges are, because the judges are going to give it respectability. And if it doesn't have respectability, then nobody's going to want to participate in it.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. And yeah, you're going to have to find impartial judges. I mean, if you focus on model railroading, you can find judges that are knowledgeable in customizing on model railroading, or knowledgeable in doing scenery or structures, that can judge the competition or the class or whatever. But you have to find a judge who is willing to be impartial. If you're, how do I want to put this? You need to find somebody that will look past the scale to look specifically at the work. So you don't want, you want to find an impartial judge that isn't going to care if it's 160, S scale, O scale, N, Z, HO, that can say, okay, this is the work that goes into this model. It makes a beautiful model, makes a realistic looking piece, and even better if it tells a story. You go out and you build your house from 1985, and you have the whole story behind, it's your house that you lived in 85 and you wanted to build a model.
That way we don't have two bottles.
I guess, it's all kind of partially or along the lines of that. In my opinion, that's what they strive for, and for like the farm modeling and stuff, you know, telling the story is dang near as important as the model itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had somebody wanted to ask a question a minute ago, but I don't know who it was.
Well, please speak up.
Okay,
You're muted. Go ahead.
is it Bud trying to,
I think so. He's not getting through.
yeah,
Can you hear him, Pat?
I'm trying to find him. He's talking, but he's too close to the speaker. He's breaking up like crazy.
Must be sunspots.
Could be a storm in the area for his internet.
Go ahead, bud. Give it another shot.
yeah. Well, okay, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Your speaker's too loud.
I'm still too loud, okay.
Down.
All right.
Better.
Better. Okay.
A little more.
The microphone's too good. Okay.
Bring it down a little more. Bring it down a little more.
The plastic modelers have 2 types of competitions. One is first, second, third in a given category, and the others are bronze, gold, and silver. And the judges, the judges.
Bud, if you can turn your microphone down a little bit.
I can. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting feedback.
Getting feedback.
Yeah, I think you got 2 speakers on or something.
Oh, no, I'm using headphones.
There you are. You're better.
Oh, okay. But in our particular group, we judge bronze, gold, and silver, and it doesn't make any difference what scale it is or anything. It's judged on the craftsmanship of the model. Okay, and so and the judges themselves, there's always 3 judges looking at the model, and they rate it bronze, gold, or silver. And so it's not dependent on one judge. So I just think that's a better system. But then the other thing is, look at, there's always been NMRA competitions, but yet the prototype modelers thing has just grown like crazy, and it's not a competition.
Yeah.
So, pros and cons both ways.
Yeah, you're venturing into a whole new world when you start doing that.
Well, and the other problem is, let's say that we tried to do a competition. You'd be doing it digitally, because the judges couldn't see the models really. They could see a picture of them.
Yeah.
That's
But-
true.
But that's all, and pictures are pictures. And the other thing to consider, in my mind at least, I know I was absolutely terrified when I entered my first contest. I mean, I didn't want to be embarrassed, and I wasn't sure that my model was up to snuff enough to be able to compete with the real true modelers, I guess. And, I don't want to put anybody off or make them feel, that they can't participate in something that we're doing, because as Pat says, we're here to try to share information and help everybody, regardless of what skill level you start with. We hope that you'll learn something along the way that you haven't heard before, and maybe be able to benefit from it. I know that there's not a single show, I can truly say this, that I haven't picked up some piece of information that I never thought about or I've never used before. Painting the screen doors tonight was one of them from Daryl. I'd never thought about doing it that way before. Makes all the sense in the world because I'm so tired of getting globs of paint and you can't see the screen door anymore. And I've done that no telling how many times. So I learned stuff from a lot of different people, regardless of the skill level. The other problem with this that I see is if you've got people who are knowledgeable model railroaders trying to judge tractors, they're not going to have the respect from the farm modelers right now, and vice versa. If you have somebody that's an expert judge of farm modeling, they're not going to be accepted by the model railroader community, regardless of whether they should be or not.
But if they're just judging the construction, in other words, I've judged car models, okay? I know nothing about race cars. I know nothing about the parachutes that go on the back, but it doesn't make any difference because I'm judging the construction of the model, not the authenticity. It is a prototype, none of that. We're just judging the construction quality of the model.
Do you think you can do that from photographs and not actually see the models?
Well,
Not really. You got to be there in person to really see it, to really see all the details, because you
That's
can
true.
miss something.
yeah,
And then the person would be hurt that you didn't see what he wanted you to see. And you can't see it on digitally. I don't care what you do. It might look great, but
I was sitting here thinking the same thing because I always Photoshop all my pictures on our website. I might as well tell you that, clean up the little, wire marks and everything else on it. So, but it'd be interesting if we could figure out what can we judge on Zoom, right? And kind of look at it that way. So what could you give in a competition through Zoom? Because that's kind of what you're trying to do is bring more modelers together, and they're not going to all go to the conference in Minneapolis or wherever because they can't spend $1,000 to get there.
That's right.
So is there a way to level a playing field in judging, and whether that's so everybody's looking at the same thing? And the problem, again, there's lots of problems because you got camera differences, you got Zoom cameras, you got, if you're going to do it on PowerPoint, then a little bit better control. But so I don't know what you're judging. Are you judging the picture or the model then, right? So how do you get around that?
I think that's why a lot of people haven't gotten involved in this, because you just can't do it.
Well, the cell phones look good. I mean, a cell phone, all my pictures, it's all done on a cell phone now. It does fantastic. Where I just look at Dimitri's stuff, and I'm sure he stages a few of his photos, but you still can't believe that's all paper. But nevertheless, it's it looks good from that. So just using his stuff as an example, you could judge the quality of workmanship from Zoom.
Yeah. There's a lot to be considered, though.
And why are you doing it? So
Yeah. I don't know. Like when you do it in the conventions, you're doing it for points to get your master model railroader or master of, or your silver or your gold or whatever you want. But I have never seen that done online. It's almost impossible. You'd have to have a camera to get right up close and show all the details. You could slip up somewhere and the guy would be, like I said, very upset.
Well, and see, I think this is one of the issues that the NMRA is struggling with too, because they have people that are not close to other modelers. And like Daryl says, you're going to drive and spend a lot of money to drive somewhere to a convention to get your model judged. But how do you service as an organization those models that live out in the boondocks? How do you get their models judged? And if you can't do it digitally, then what? They can't participate. where Gordon Robinson lives in Scotland. I think that there's probably less than a handful of modelers around where he lives in any kind of proximity. So, you know, in the British region, it's basically around London. So, you know, where do people come from that are going to commute that far to judge one of his models? Or does he have to drive 400 miles to get a model judged? I mean, how many modelers are going to do that to simply be a part of the NMRA's achievement program? And I think that's part of what the NMRA is struggling with right now, is what can be judged digitally.
One of the things in our division, Jim, that we do is we've taken our division, which is quite, from one end to the other, it's about a 9-hour drive. So what we've done is we have a group of judges, and we drew out areas that are 1-hour drive for the judges in that area. And then the people would call in and say, I'd like my layout judged, or I have a couple buildings I'd like judged. And we assign, if they're in a certain area, we assign the 2 judges, and they're sent out to do the judging.
And I think a lot of divisions around do the same exact kind of thing. I mean, they almost have to, because a lot of people, I'm telling you, are just terrified to take a model to a convention. And I guess from my standpoint, putting one of my models under scrutiny for everybody to say negative things about. And that's a feeling among a lot of hobbyists.
Well, you know, it's a shame, Jim, that I know when the same as you, when I took my first model to a convention, it was a convention, Niagara Frontier Region. And I thought it was the greatest thing I ever built. I got 66 points, which was disappointing, but my learning experience and the comments from the judges made me a better modeler.
Amen.
Everyone's got to start somewhere. And those that are really great at it, they come in maybe their first time and they're lucky, they get the points. And from there, it's just uphill all the way. You got to start somewhere. Sorry, dear.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, like I feel everyone has to start somewhere. And it's a learning journey. Like I've been at this since the early 70s. And I didn't start off as the type of modeler I am today. And as you progress, you learn from people and your modeling becomes better.
See, I wonder if that could be something is, you know, instead of show my model, comes across the wrong way, but critique my model.
Yeah.
So
that would be
I look at my own pictures when I put them up, and I look at other people's and go, I would have done that differently, or I would have added this, or I would have added that. And half the time is you don't notice that. Somebody else points it out for you.
Yeah.
And like you see with the judging thing. So that might have some merit in this too.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So Patrick puts his model up and we all beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
In a nice, friendly sort of way. But I think something like that could work.
I think that's what the RPM shows is attracting the younger people. I think, and it's a mixture of it, but a lot of young people where they build their models and they bring them out and they display them, and you can talk to them one-on-one as you go along and look at everything. And you learn, and you probably give feedback, and they learn. Plus, when they get to walk around the room, see another model. Oh, I never thought of that type of thing. But you haven't got that fear of being judged or anything. You're showing what you did, and you're probably quite proud of that. And it's in I think a much healthier learning environment. nowadays. We all have lots of pressure, that we didn't have on our shoulders back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And I think that's why we have hobbies, is to get away from all that in our life.
Mhm.
That what you're saying is why I wanted to do the My Bill segment on the show, rather than a contest or rather than a competition, because I really think there's value in seeing a model that you've built and having you talk to me about your model. I'll learn something about how you model from what you tell me. And that to me is important, give and take between two modelers, because both of them are going to come away with something from that discussion. That was my theory behind having the segment of the My Build. Now, if we could expand the My Build in some way, short of having a competition right now, because I'm telling you, competition scares me to death. I've been a contest chairman of 2 different regions. And I'm telling you, it's a scary thing for a modeler to come in to a room and put his model on a table and say, okay, take your shot at me. And come away feeling I'll never come back to this organization. I don't want any part of it because they weren't fair to me. They gave Joe more points than I got, and his model wasn't near as good as mine. I tell you, it's those feelings are hard to get over, for an organization to get over, and for the modeler to get around and in effect forgive that modeler who did his best to try to critique him. But it didn't come off right for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
And I'm scared to death of that. I've just seen so much of it. I've seen judges not allowed to judge at nationals anymore because of the way it was felt that they judged previously at a national. And I've seen the same thing at regions. I've seen contest people, judges at regions, wait until almost the last minute to find a category where nobody has entered a model yet and go to their car and get something that'll qualify in that category so they can get a first prize plaque for that category. It's out. I mean, let's face it, this is not rare. I think it happens a lot more than some people may understand it's happening, but I'm scared to open that can of worms, particularly because I know the NMRA is concerned about judging from a digital standpoint, and that's what we got here. It's a Zoom show. That's why if we can figure a way short of having judging to expand in some way the My Build part of the show, then I'd jump all over that in a heartbeat. I don't know where we would find judges. That would be the main problem that I anticipate, because the judge has his reputation too to look out for. And if he comes across that, he does a show, he's done his best job at critiquing the models that are there, and everybody says boo, hiss. Yeah, that's his reputation out there at that point.
I think our my build is the best way to go. And the fact is that we can look at the model on screen, and if he wants, we could ask him questions like we should be doing.
Yeah.
And tell him where he could maybe make it a little bit better, but not, judge him in such a way, but help him.
Giving him helpful tips. Like what Daryl was saying is they would bring their model on, and just as you were mentioning there, and we have a lot of MMRs on this program. Not that we're the perfect people in the world, but we do have some modeling experience, and we can pass on tips to these people that want their models judged. The one thing about entering a model in a contest if you don't get the points the first time, follow the comments that were made, re-enter the model. If you don't get it the second time, follow the comments and re-enter the model.
Yeah.
And there have been people done that before. You know, they've entered 2-3 times and they finally got their certificate, which is, I think is great.
I do too, because they learned a great deal from the process.
You're right.
Yeah, so if you want to, if we're mentors, that's actually a good way to do it and keep it friendly. You just give feedback on what you could change or what you could update or what you could add. I like that idea. I gotta run, but I really like to continue this discussion because it's something I'm interested in, so.
Take
Well,
care,
that's-
Daryl.
We can do that, Derek. I'd like to continue it too, because, if we want to do this, that's great. But we've got people also that want to show their models.
Right.
And they gotta be able to take a photograph of it and show it to on
Yeah,
My Build. But not everybody's got great cameras to do it with. I mean, some people have the cell phones and
well, that's fine. Let's don't worry about the photography quality.
Yeah.
Let's just worry about how the model look and
What they
Let
can
it-
show.
let a person talk about how he built the model. I mean, some people, if you built a lot of models, you can listen to what Daryl said tonight and you can put yourself in his position and you know exactly how strong he was doing this, how much he pressured over here, how many times he had to do this before he got it right. You understand exactly what he went through to build that structure that he built tonight. If you built a lot of structures, you know that going in. So if you, and like was said, there are some very talented modelers on the show, no question about that. And there are other modelers on the show that would like to learn from those talented modelers. Great, that's what it's all about, in my opinion. Now, how do we get all of those people, both the talented modelers that show their models and the untalented yet modelers to show what they're doing, and we get the transfer of that knowledge? That's what mentoring is, the transfer of knowledge.
I think we need to keep saying, don't be afraid to show it online. We're not here to critique you in such a way that you'd be ashamed of it. We're here to help you. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid.
Hey, guys, we'll see you next week. But
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a good
I
after show.
missed your
Thanks.
music and your
Thanks,
your
Daryl.
lovely voice behind it.
I thought we'd do it live too. Live helps once in a while as well. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Thanks,
good evening,
Daryl.
guys.
Good night, Daryl.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we've pretty well,
Beat it to death, have we?
Yeah.
I think we can pretty well stop the recording at this point and maybe say,
No problem.
Pat, did you ever find where the music?
Pardon me?
Did you ever find out where the music was coming from? That was driving me crazy.
That was Earl. Somebody in his house was doing that, but I don't think he heard it. It
I
was
don't
coming from him speaker because he was the only one. I went down the list and I made sure everybody was muted, and he was still speaking, and it was coming through his through his speakerphone, and I couldn't do nothing about it.
Maybe his wife had the music on while she was unloading the dishwasher.
I think she was making supper for him,
Yeah.
as he's
Yeah.
been asked before. What's for supper?
All
Oh dear.
right, guys.
Has
See you
has
next.
anybody heard how Chris is doing?
I have not. I've not heard a word.
Not heard a thing.
I've had an email from him and he says he's getting better. And he's coming by. I just sent him an email and told him, if don't have to reply, but we're thinking of you. And he did reply. And he says he's getting better and he thought he'd be coming back. So I thought we might see his face, on one of these shows, but
Well, I hope we will. I really do.
yeah.
But, he's gone through an awful lot. I mean, geez.
I didn't realize how serious his condition
Oh,
was.
I'm telling you, it was, I think it may have been touch and go there for a while for him. I'm
Yep.
serious. It was really serious.
Yeah, until he switched and got another doctor that just hit on the right
Yeah.
thing and then start getting them some help.
Thanks for making the contact and letting them know that we're thinking about them.
Oh,
Sure
no
are.
problem. Yeah.
We miss them.
Well, guys, I shall see you next week. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the conversation.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. See you, Jim.
Take care.
See you, Jim.
Looked up that Dimitri. I just can't, that model he showed that.
Did you see that? He's got it up there right now. Dimitri, can you make it a loud or a large screen or something?
Just pin them
Okay, just a second.
and that should come up. I understand. I don't know about all this stuff, but
Okay,
Oh,
pin.
there
There
you
you go. Look at that,
Okay.
eh? Whoa.
We don't see it, Pat.
yeah, it's individual. I think if everybody
Just
just
go
goes,
onto your participants and pin it.
yeah, double click it, I think, and that brings it up. And it's like
You'll see, excuse me a minute, you'll see more. If you go up to his name and you'll see more on Dimitri, and it'll tell you in that list, it says pin.
oh, okay, yes.
That is amazing.
Oh,
That's
okay.
out of paper?
There you go. Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe how he did the tracks and the wheels and everything.
Holy
Like,
mackerel.
is it a composition of other material? But they said it's all paper and card. I just, wow.
Whoa.
That's amazing.
Phew.
No, it's simply.
It's simple, huh? We can't critique it.
It's beautiful work, Dimitri.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, my friend. Thanks.
What scale
I'm
is
glad
that?
that you like.
What scale is it?
Scale 135.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Very good.
Typical for military modelers and
It's standard for dioramas.
yeah. Yeah, anybody models over here and I'm in Canada and if you're modeling military, it's 132nd or 135th is the two basic scales.
Uh,
I'm
You
sure
can
we
get
can learn a lot.
military-
I don't see any 140 or 34 scales.
It's
No.
like 35th, 35th, 32nd and 35th. I'd say 34. My mistake.
Okay.
Very good, very good. I can learn a lot from that. Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to try to go to your Facebook. You put up your Facebook and said you did some model railroading, a railroad diorama. So I want to have a look at that. Sure.
I have some railway dioramas on my Facebook page.
That's amazing.
Where are you living presently?
Presently, Ukraine, Kharkov,
Pardon me?
Kharkov, Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you're not being bothered by what's going on at the moment? Or are you in the middle of
The conflict.
conflict?
Conflict here every night. Russian
Mhm.
missiles bombed by my town.
Oh,
Wow. Oof.
That's a shame.
yeah.
But your HIMARS very defend us from Russian soldiers.
You're definitely putting up a real good fight. That's for sure.
It was great to have you on tonight. We enjoyed your models, that's for sure. That can't get over that. That's just, wow. Right over the top.
I'm glad that you like my works.
Man. Anyway. How long do you guys want to stay on? Rich, you're there. How you doing, Rich?
I didn't know, Pat, if, did Ed Hayden get a hold of you?
I got his message that he sent to Paul.
You didn't hear about, oh,
What was it?
sorry, I got a mental block here.
I got the email he sent to Paul, and Paul sent me the email back.
Did you get the message about Bruce Beachy?
No, did he die?
He passed away, yes.
Oh, geez.
He was a fabulous modeler.
I didn't read my emails. I've been too busy with this tonight, so
Yeah, he passed away, I think, on Sunday.
he didn't look good the day we were down
Pat.
visiting him.
No,
Yes,
Pat,
yes. I'm listening.
did you want to keep streaming? You're still streaming to YouTube.
I know that. I can shut it off.